Nats Chat is brought to you by Walters. This summer, when you're going to Nationals Park, make Walters your spot to hang out before the game.
Located just across the street from the ballpark, walk on over to Walters.
Here's the pitch. Here's a swing and a drive to deep left. Going. Gone, goodbye. Out of here in a flash, a two-run homer for Starling Marte. As the Mets continue to tee off on Erick Fedde. 4 runs home in the inning. It's now New York 6 and Washington 3. Here's the pitch. Swinging Alonso hits it high in the air to deep right center. Back goes Robles to the warning track. To the wall. It is gone. Goodbye. Pete Alonso with his 13th home run of the year and his league-leading 47th run batted in. And the Mets now lead it 13-5.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Tuesday, May 31st, 2022, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Citi Field in New York. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. Well, so much for Erick Fedde having been a pleasant surprise this season. So much for the Nats having won 4 or 5, and so much for the Nats potentially being 19-31 this season. The Nats now are 18-32 this season. And oh so humbling, 13-5 loss at the New York Mets on Monday night in Game 1 of a 3-game series and Game 1 of a 10-game road trip. Unlike so many other Nats losses so far this season, the Nats did hit well in this loss, but they did not pitch well in this loss. And there's a domino effect here with what happened with Erick Fedde, because his outing just may have changed the Nats pitching plans for Wednesday. More on that in a bit. But Mark, this really was something. Erick Fedde came into the game on Monday night with an ERA this season of .355. He exited Monday night with an ERA this season of .460. His ERA for the year ballooned by more than a run. That doesn't happen often, and yet that happened on Monday night.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think one of the two of us 5 days ago suggested that maybe Erick Fedde was a sleeper all-star candidate. I want to disavow myself of any knowledge of having perhaps said that on the air in the past, because this one kind of put an end to that possibility. Yikes. I mean, the crazy thing is 5 days ago, he shuts out the Dodgers over 6 innings. And you can't tell me he did that to that lineup on complete, luck, that was some kind of fluke. Maybe he had, a bit on his side that day, but he has the ability to get good lineups out, and he's facing another good one here in the Mets, and there was nothing there. Everything was over the plate, and everything was hit hard. He faced, there were 11 batters who put the ball in play against him. 8 of them were deemed hard hit balls based on StatCast's, measurement criteria for that. That's not good, obviously, and it's why Davey Martinez decided he had to pull the plug as early as he did. He just saw no evidence that it was going to change on this night, and that is really unfortunate because it did cause a major domino effect on the bullpen that's going to last, beyond this game, last several days, and even as Fedde said, it could, put the pitching staff behind the 8 ball for a full week, depending on how things play out now.
Yeah, I mean, the Nats are still in this period of the schedule in which there just aren't many off days here. So they're scuffling right now in terms of trying to figure out pitching plans. This really was brutal by Fedde on Monday night. 6 runs in 1 and a third innings. He got rocked in giving up, as Mark said, a lot of hard contact. He gave up 8 hits, a homer, a double, and 6 singles. He issued 1 walk. He recorded no strikeouts. He in his 1 and a third innings threw 52 pitches. Bottom of the first, he gave up 2 runs, began the inning by giving up 3 consecutive singles and then issuing a walk. Bottom of the second, he allowed 4 runs. He in the inning faced 5 batters, got just 1 out. He gave up a first pitch leadoff opposite field single to Mark Canha to right field. Gave up an RBI double to Nick Plummer to left center field. Nick Plummer came out of nowhere on Monday night to hit like, he was Babe Ruth in this game. Fedde gave up a 1-out RBI single to Luis Guillorme to left center field on an 0-2 pitch. Fedde gave up a 1-out 2-run homer to Starling Marte to left field for a 6-3 Mets lead. And Fedde gave up a 1-out single to Francisco Lindor up the middle, despite Lindor having been down at 1.02. 0-2. And then that was it. Davey Martinez came out and yanked Fedde from the game. 1 and a third innings. That was it. This is the second blow-up start for Fedde this season. His other really bad start was that 11-2 loss to the Arizona Diamondbacks at Nationals Park on April 20th. 7 runs, 6 earned in 3 and a third innings. Just 2 starts after that, he had that great outing at Colorado, the 10-2 win at the Rockies on May 3rd, 1 run in 7 innings. Became the first Nats pitcher this season to complete at least 7 innings in a game. The question obviously becomes is, what we saw on Monday night, was that just a bad start, which you are bound to have over the course of a season, or was this the beginning of the unraveling of Erick Fedde? I brought this up the last time we talked about him. It was around this time last year that his 2021 season started to fall off the cliff. Fedde was quite good last season over his first 10 starts, ERA at 3.33. Rest of the season, not so good. Here we have now what happened on Monday night. 9 starts into the season, ERA at 3.55, and he gets shellacked at the Mets. So time will tell, but the hope clearly would be that this proves to be like that start at the Diamondbacks, where bad, yes, but only bad for that one outing.
Yeah, so I want to believe this is just a blip and a bad combination of him not locating at all and having very hittable pitches and doing it against, let's give them some credit, a very good Mets lineup that has done this to a lot of pitchers this year. Because it comes on the heels of that great start against the Dodgers, not just any team, but the Dodgers, that's what makes me want to cling to this idea that Fedde is better than this and that one was not just completely out of nowhere. But I do think back to some of those starts where the final line looked pretty good. But as you know, watching it, he was in trouble a lot and maybe was a little bit fortunate to get out of it. And you wonder, was this similar to that and he just wasn't able to get out of it, that this lineup was able to hit him as opposed to some of those previous ones? I don't know. I think the answer is probably somewhere in the middle of all that. I don't know that at this stage of his career, Erick Fedde all of a sudden is a 3.5 ERA pitcher, but I think he's better than what we saw in this one. But it did show me, though, that when he puts the ball over the plate, the stuff is not good enough to get outs. He's not a huge strikeout guy, as we know. He's got to get weak contact, and to do that, he's got to locate a whole lot better. And it's a little bit of a fine line there. He can't get away with his stuff, and as you saw against a good lineup, when you miss your location, you're going to pay the price for it.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he definitely has put guys on base in his outings. I don't recall him giving up this much hard contact in an outing. I'd have to check on that. But, the whip for the season now is at 153. He has put a lot of guys on base, and we obviously saw him do that in this game on Monday night. So hopefully this is like that start that came against the Diamondbacks at Nationals Park back in April, and it doesn't prove to be a sign of what's to come. But, given Erick Fedde's history, you do have to wonder if this is a sign of what's to come. We shall see. Now, the sort of two-pronged aspect to the negative part of all of this is that the Nats pitching plans moving forward here, you got to think have been altered. I mean, I guess we'll see what ends up happening. But because Fedde only lasted for 1 1/3 innings on Monday night, Davey Martinez ended up using 4 relievers. And it wasn't just Fedde who struggled. Andres Machado struggled for a second consecutive game, 3 runs in 1 1/3 innings. Austin Voth on Monday night struggled again, 3 runs in 1 1/3 innings. And so with the Nats not having an obvious starter for Wednesday afternoon's Game 3 at the Mets, the two, in theory, candidates for this, Paolo Espino and Josh Rogers, each guy ended up pitching on Monday night. Now, Paolo was great, and it's really starting to annoy me how we don't ever see Paolo in games other than blowout affairs. Paolo on Monday night, 3 scoreless innings. He gave up just 1 hit, which was a single. He issued 1 walk, 48 pitches, 32 strikes versus 16 balls. He has an ERA at 2.28 on the season. Josh Rogers was not as good. He pitched for 1 inning, bottom of the 8th, gave up a leadoff homer to Pete Alonso. So, there is a conversation to be had here of why aren't we seeing more of Paolo Espino? And at some point, people have to stop saying, well, it's all a bunch of low leverage innings. Okay, fine. He keeps getting guys out. So, okay, at some point he deserves credit for that. But what about Wednesday? What do you think this means for Wednesday afternoon?
So, first of all, with Paolo, I tried to ask that question to Davey Martinez afterwards and get him to say, would you start considering using him in situations of more consequence? Because you can't deny that the results have been fantastic, certainly when compared to some of these other guys that he's putting out there. And he kind of acknowledged that, yeah, maybe we'll find a spot where maybe we're ahead by 3 or 4 runs and we could feel comfortable using him for multiple innings. But I didn't get the sense that, that he's been totally convinced on that one, and that all of a sudden we're going to see a brand new role for Paolo. So as far as Wednesday goes, I think it was telling that he waited until as long as he could to use Espino and Rogers. He wanted to get through this game without them. I think that says to me that was their plan A, was that one or both of them could start on Wednesday, and maybe you get 3 innings out of each, and that helps you get through it. So they go to Machado first. He only gets 4 outs, gives up 3 runs. They go to Voth. He only gets 4 outs, gives up 3 runs. And now you have no choice. And so you go to Espino. Paolo is saying to us afterwards that, he'll see. Maybe he'll feel well enough to come back and pitch again on Tuesday. And I don't see that happening after a 48-pitch outing, but he seemed to think that he'd be good for Wednesday. Now, he's talking about Wednesday in relief for an inning or 2. I don't think he's talking about starting. Now, Rogers only threw 13 pitches, so that doesn't necessarily knock him out. But neither of these guys is in a position to go out and make a start and feel like you're going to get 5 innings from them. They just have not been built up that way. They're not in the right place right now to try to do that, again, against a very good Mets lineup. So, barring something else happening, and there's still some time to, if there's all to sort out and for them to figure out what they're going to do, I would say, as I tweeted, if you're Jackson Tetro's family and you haven't at least started looking at airfare to New York, I think it's time to at least look at the airfare and be ready in case you get the call that you want to get up here to watch your son make his Major League debut. He is the one who is on schedule. He is a starter. He's done fairly well at Rochester. He's not listed as one of their top prospects, anything like that, but he lines up properly for them. Now, he's not on the 40-man roster, so they have to make some moves. They do have one spot open right now because of the Aaron Sanchez DFA. Let's see what happens on Tuesday. Obviously, they would love for Patrick Corbin to give him 6 or more innings. That would help a lot. But at the moment, if I had to place a bet on someone, I'm probably going to say it's Tetro. And you hope for the best. I would just hate to see this kid come up here and get lit up by the Mets and only last a couple of innings, and you're still in a bad spot bullpen-wise. And that's not out of the realm of possibility at all for that to happen.
Yeah, I thought it was funny that Davey Martinez, during his post-game session with you guys on Monday night, essentially was like, yeah, let's see what happens with Patrick Corbin on Tuesday night, because I think we all know that what happened with Erick Fedde on Monday night could be replicated by Patrick Corbin on Tuesday night. Let's hope that that doesn't happen, but we all know that is a possibility. I just think about Paolo Espino, and look, nobody has any delusions of him being some great pitcher, right? And we've certainly had our fun with Paolo Espino, and, he doesn't exactly look like Randy Johnson. Okay, we get that, and he's got this name that, suggests that he's like your next-door neighbor, and he's an older player, and all these other things. But, at some point, it's like in the book Moneyball. It's not about how you look in a pair of jeans. It's about, like, what you do, okay? And he gets outs. He works quickly. He throws strikes. He gets outs. His numbers for last season for the longest time were quite good. They sort of soured as the year went on. But I remember around this time we started talking about, half jokingly, half seriously, Paolo Espino for the All-Star game, because there actually was a case for that. And now you look at what he's doing so far this season, and it's like, on this team, with all of the pitching problems / concerns, who are the Nats to look at anyone with an ERA under 3 and be like, well, you're not good enough to pitch in bigger spots for us? Like, I just don't get that. There seems to be this anti-Paolo bias from, I don't know if it's Davey Martinez or Mike Rizzo or who, and it's just like, give the guy more opportunity, more of a shot. He certainly seems to be capable of handling that.
Yeah, and I think we could look back potentially last year, and we were having this conversation a lot about Ryan Harper. Remember him? And he had the ERA under 1, and everyone said, well, shouldn't he be pitching high leverage spots? And Davey kept saying, well, no, we don't really think he profiles to that. And he finally put him in a few of those spots, and he got lit up, so it didn't work. So they did know a little bit what they were talking about. But we've seen Paolo Espino pitch a lot of innings, important innings, over the last couple seasons, or certainly last season. Think of all the significant spots they threw him into, either as a starter, as a long man, or even, remember, he got a save in a crazy game in Philadelphia. And here's the thing on top of it all that baffles me. Tim Britton of The Athletic, he covers the Mets, pointed this out. Paolo Espino's career ERA against the Mets is 1.33. Now, maybe you'd say, well, the 2022 Mets lineup is not the same as the 2021 Mets lineup. Okay, that's fine. But you can't tell me that he doesn't give you at least as good a chance as Austin Voth gives you right now, or Andres Machado, or one of many other pitchers that they are more willing to put out there in situations of consequence. So I get that you want to say, hey, he's our emergency guy, he's our long man, he's our mop-up man. Okay, fine. We're at a point now where you don't really have a choice. You've got to put whoever your best pitchers are out there. And if it gets lit up, then so be it. It can't be any worse than what we've seen from some of these other guys, right?
I don't think so. And I think he's earned it. At some point, merit has to matter to some degree. Like, he's earned the chance to do more for you and pitch in bigger spots for you. So We shall see, but he was good on Monday night. The rest of the Nats pitchers, not so much. Hey guys, it's Al Galdi for Window Nation. It's graduation season, and so that means it is Window Nation's graduation sale. If your old windows are failing or just not making the grade, here's a homework assignment. Call Window Nation and get to the head of the class with 0% financing for 5 full years, 60 months, and get 2 free windows with every 2 that you buy. Window Nation windows are the best. They are made right here locally in the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area. Over 1,500 custom window combinations are available. Vinyl, wood, fiberglass. Price quotes are valid for 6 months. Call 866-90Nation or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that Al Galdi sent you. You know, the longer that you have old, drafty windows, the more money that you're wasting on your heating and cooling bills. Window Nation has saved customers over $60 million on energy bills. Call 866-90Nation or visit windownation.com and make sure that you ask Window Nation for the graduation sale that you heard about from Al Galdi. That's 866-90Nation or visit windownation.com and get the special offer. Mention my name, Al Galdi, when you talk to Window Nation.
Here's the set of the pitch. Swinging a line drive right center field. That's a base hit for Hernandez. Marte races over and cuts this one off. Hernandez will be content to hold it first with an RBI single. Escobar crosses the plate with the Nationals' 5th run.
The Nats did hit on Monday night. You know, we're so used to sort of this formula for Nats losses this season where when they lose, they don't hit at all. Nats actually hit pretty well on Monday night. Another first inning in which the Nats scored runs. I mean, this is crazy to me. The frequency with which the Nats are scoring first inning runs, 3 more first inning runs for the Nats on Monday night. They lost 13-5. They led 3-0 in this game. But the Nats finished with 5 runs, 10 hits, 5 walks, went 3 for 10 with runners in scoring position. The Nats had a triple in this game. Alcides Escobar had a triple. Juan Soto had the other Nats extra base hit, a meaningless double in the bottom of the 9th inning. Josh Bell did have a nice game, 3 for 4 with a 2-run single, an RBI single, and another single. So, you know, not hitting for power, but certainly looking better than he had been during his multi-week slump here in this month of May. 3-run Nats first. He had a went-out bases loaded first pitch, opposite field, 2-run single to right field to put the Nats up 2-0. Top of the 3rd, Bell had a one-out single through the left side of the infield. And in a Nats 1-run 5th, he had a 2-out RBI single through the left side of the infield. So it's good to see that. Another good game for Cesar Hernandez. Man, he is locked in right now. 3 for 5 with an RBI single and 2 other singles. This off the big weekend that he had in the series win over the Rockies. Hernandez in that series, 7-16, 3 doubles, 4 singles, and 3 walks. So, you know, the offense wasn't as good as the Mets offense, but for once we can talk about the Nats having lost and not say, hey, the Nats scored 2 runs or less. Like, the offense, for the most part, did its job in this game.
When they're up 3-0 at the end of the top of the first, I'm like, oh, this could be quite a big game for them. And hitting David Peterson around, it seemed like maybe a decent matchup for them. And it was. And they just, you know, their pitching staff let them down and didn't really give them a chance. But I don't know if you saw the stat I put out. They've now scored 46 first inning runs, most in the majors. So you're right. Your instinct was right. It does seem like they score a lot in the first inning. They do more than any other team. Now, conversely, they've only scored 7 runs in the 9th inning this season, which is second fewest in the majors. And as we've seen, there have been very few comebacks or even attempted comebacks. The boys have not been battling late in games very much. That's disappointing, but they do score in the first inning. I give them credit for that. And one other point on Cesar Hernandez. Would you believe, Al, that through 50 games, it's a long way to go, of course, Cesar Hernandez has 61 hits. He is on pace for 198 hits. The club record is 184 by Denard Span and Daniel Murphy. Now, he's played every day. He leads the league in plate appearances. So I don't know, number one, is he going to play every day? Number two, if he keeps this up, he's not going to be on this team come August 1st. So he may not get a chance to break that record because he's going to be playing for somebody else, which, let's be honest, would be perfectly fine if that's the outcome of all this. If he plays well enough to be traded and have some value at the end of July, then you absolutely make that move. But he is very quietly, Cesar Hernandez has done a really nice job for them, is getting hits in bunches and also, like we said the other night, drawing walks as well.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. I think that's what's changed a lot with Hernandez. He was getting his singles for the most part earlier in the year, but he wasn't drawing walks and he wasn't hitting for any power. Now, lately, he's drawing walks. He's had some doubles. And in accordance with that, you're seeing things look more like, hey, this is what a leadoff batter can be for you. I mean, his on-base percentage for the season is up to 345. That's lovely. You'll take that. That's not a bad on-base percentage at all. You still would like to see him hit for some power, but he's been a very productive member of this lineup. And yeah, I mean, our perception of who is a potential trade chip seems to change week by week. But as things stand right now, Josh Bell is a big-time trade chip, and I think you have to say Cesar Hernandez has emerged as a legitimate trade chip. We'll see where he's at over the next month or so here. But as we enter the month of June, we're just about 2 months away from that trade deadline on August 2nd. So you do have to start thinking in those terms. But it's been good to see Cesar Hernandez do as he has been doing. If you are curious about Juan Soto on Monday night off the big game that he had on Sunday afternoon, 1 for 4 with a double and a walk. Like we said, he had that double it was the top of the ninth inning, a 2-out full count double to the right center field gap. He also had a 1-out 6-pitch walk in the Nats 3-run first. I was thinking about this with the Mets. We've talked about the Mets and we've poked fun at the Mets, and rightfully so, because every year there are big expectations, and every year the Mets seem to fall on their faces with those expectations, and who knows what's going to end up happening this season. But, you think about what's going on with the Mets right now. So for the moment, they are running away with the National League East. They are the only team in the NL East with a winning record. They're doing this with Jacob deGrom basically having been a non-factor this season, and with Max Scherzer now injured this season as well. We haven't talked about that. Max is hurt. We're not used to that. That is the case here. The Mets are hitting like crazy. The Mets have a new manager in Buck Showalter who, his act wears thin, but he wins wherever he goes. There is an initial burst. There is an initial rise when you have Buck Showalter as your manager. Basically, every team he's managed has enjoyed that. So, I'm not ready to crown the Mets anything, but, we've seen the Mets now a few times this season against the Nats, and you look at where they're at, 33-17, running away with the division, hitting like crazy, getting contributions from a lot of guys, and winning despite their top 2 pitchers, deGrom and Scherzer, being out. This is impressive, I think, what Buck Showalter is doing with the Mets here so far.
I agree. I think they're up 9.5 games now. It might be the biggest lead of any team in any division. Now, some of this is the Braves have been struggling, defending World Series champs, and we kind of keep waiting. Although I feel like last year we said the same thing, like, okay, when are the Braves going to get going? We feel like they're good, and they did get going. So I don't want to count them out yet. But what the Mets are doing, they obviously have talent. I mean, we can see that, and they're winning even without some of their stars. But they also seem to, so far, have a little special quality, whatever that is. They won a wild game against the Phillies on Sunday night where this kid Plummer had a terrible night, and then he hits the big home run at the end. They're getting those kind of like special little moments out of them that make you think this team has something going on. They've got the right juju. Now, this wouldn't be the first time that a Mets team has looked great early in the season and then had everything fall apart on them. We've also seen in the past where they look terrible. They do the usual Mets stuff and then all of a sudden get red hot and are the best team in the league. That happened in 2015 when they overtook the Nationals and wound up running away with the division and made it all the way to the World Series. So around here, it doesn't take much to flip the switch, good or bad. But what they've done so far, I do think they have something special going on. There's a long way to go, but right now it's hard not to be impressed with what they're doing.
Yeah, they have had some crazy wins for sure. And one thing about Buck, he is very much a micromanager, and he is very into attention to detail. And that can rub people the wrong way. And again, the act can wear thin. By the end of his time with the Orioles, he and Dan Duquette could not stand each other. But Buck gets results, and I think the Mets needed someone like this. The Mets needed, a new sheriff. They needed some law and order. The Mets have had a lot of problems, a lot of weird stories in recent years. An authoritarian figure like Buck probably was needed for that culture. So I think he may have been just the right guy for this circumstance. But yes, if you know the Mets, there is a saying that's so Mets, because what is the case in late May, early June can be very different come August and September. So we shall see. All right, Stephen Strasburg on Sunday afternoon looked quite good in his second minor league rehab assignment start. Of course, what matters the most is how he felt after that start. So what is the latest on Stephen Strasburg?
By all accounts, everything was good. He is here with the team. And by the way, I asked him, how did he get from Fredericksburg to D.C. so quickly? And he smiled and he said, quick shower and hit the road. He says, I drove the speed limit, I promise. So I guess he caught a break on a holiday Sunday afternoon and did not hit that bad of traffic because he made it up to D.C. by the time the Nats game ended. So good for him for that.
So he drove himself? The Nats don't send a car for somebody like that? Like he actually drives himself?
He made it sound like he was the one driving. He said, I drove the speed limit. So he said I. Now, I don't know if that meant like he may have had passenger. Maybe his family was with him. I don't know. But yeah, he made it sound like he had done that himself. But everything going well. The reports from the game, not just the results, but everything sounded like it went well. They were really pleased with his breaking ball, with his changeup. So he's going to throw a bullpen session here in the next day or two. He'll have Jim Hickey and the front office staff, everybody here, there to watch it. And then the plan is to send him to Rochester at the end of the week for the next start. And I asked Davey, is it possible that would be it? Just one more. And he said, I haven't put any timetables on him yet, so I'm not going to start now. I can understand they don't want to declare anything until they know for sure. You don't want to spoil this. But so far, it's been really good signs. And, I would say if things progress the way they have gone, we're looking at one or two more. And I would imagine that would be it. Unless something weird happens between now and then, I wouldn't think he would need more than two more of these. And it would only be to get the pitch count up because he went to 5 innings, but he only threw 58 pitches. So if you want to get him to 90 pitches, that may be too big a leap for one start. So I could see two more. But other than that, I don't think there's a whole lot left. And that's a great sign. And for the first time in a long time, I think we can legitimately talk about the idea of Stephen Strasburg pitching for the Nationals.
And with him pitching for Rochester, we also now have Erick Adrianza doing his minor league rehab assignment for AAA Rochester. Erick Adrianza, the ghost of Erick. Erick Adrianza suffered a left quadriceps injury in an exhibition game on March 31st. He has not played since then, but it looks like he may be playing for the Nats sometime soon at the major league level.
Yep. So he did about a week with Harrisburg, and now he's moved on to Rochester. I think if he wasn't on the 60-day IL, they probably would be looking at bringing him up here sooner. But because of that, he has to wait. June 6th is the first date that he's eligible. So that's in a week. So I would imagine he'll spend the week with Rochester, and then barring any setbacks, they will call him up. Now, they want him playing multiple positions. They want him playing shortstop, third base, even left field. So I'll be curious to see how they use him when he does come back. I thought it was interesting that in his first game at Rochester, he started at shortstop and hit leadoff, and Luis Garcia was bumped to second base. I don't know if there should read anything into that or not, but at least in this case, they felt like Adrianza at shortstop was a priority over Garcia.
Well, when Cesar Hernandez gets flipped for 5 top 100 prospects, we can have Luis Garcia at second base and not shortstop. That's Garcia's path to the major league level finally. Well, I will say this about Erick Adrianza. He does offer that thing that we talked about the Nats lacking so much last season, this idea of position flex and a true utility man. I mean, Erick Adrianza in his career has played shortstop, third base, second base, right field, left field, first base. He legitimately can play just about anywhere on the diamond. The Nats have been so lacking in having someone like that. He's not a great hitter, and who knows what his health will be like with this quadriceps injury, but the guy is versatile defensively. There's no question about that.
And he plays good defense, and we know that's been an issue for this team at times. But I don't think that anybody should get their hopes up too much here and say, oh, this guy's going to step in and be an everyday big-time contributor. The idea all along was he was a utility guy coming off the bench, and he would start games here and there. I don't think they suddenly have themselves a new starting shortstop or third baseman or left fielder or anything like that. But it'll be interesting to see how many starts a week does he get. Is it at multiple positions? And then, of course, we're not there yet, but who ends up losing their roster spot as a result? Somebody else is going to have to go off the bench.
Yeah, and with shortstop, I will say Alcides Escobar has been better lately. He is getting some hits. He is looking a bit more like the Alcides Escobar of 2021, so that has been a good thing to see. You tell us what you think. You can hit us up on Twitter at @Nats_chat. You can email the podcast, natschatpodcast@gmail.com, including if you would like to become a sponsor of the Nats Chat Podcast. You can hit up Tim Shovers. Again, the email address is natschatpodcast@gmail.com. You can get yourself a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt by going to natschatpodcast.square.site. That's natschatpodcast.square.site. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Breaking ball, Kendrick started the bat. He thinks he checked, but the home plate umpire, Bruce Streckman, said he swung. And Kendrick's saying you could have asked for help. But once the home plate umpire calls it, the at-bat is over, and somebody's just been ejected from the game. I don't know if it's Kendrick. Here comes Davey Martinez out to talk to Dreckman.
Well, it's been a frustrating stretch of games, a frustrating series.
There he goes. He's been ejected from the game. You can't blame him. Davey's going to kick some dirt, spike his hat, and this is as adamant as he's been all year.